House of Representatives Committee on Basic Examination on Tuesday arrested 4 representatives of the West African Examination Council WAEC. The officials arrested were Amos Josiah, head of National Office, WAEC Nigeria, who represented the Registrar Angus Okeleze, Senior Deputy Registrar Victor Odu, Acting Director of Finance Shegun Jeremy, Deputy Director of Finance, were held in custody at the National Assembly. Now, the officials were arrested after they failed to answer questions from the lawmakers to their satisfaction, and this followed a motion that was moved by a member of the committee, Honorable Uchenna Okonkwo, during an investigative hearing. The lawmakers during the hearing were in heated argument with the WAEC officials whether the examination body was accountable to the parliament or not. Now, Dangote had earlier in his presentation to the committee posited that WAEC was not an agency of the government, hence it is not accountable as other agencies are. But the lawmakers insisted that WAEC Nigeria was a creation of an act of the National Assembly, hence must account for all their activities to them. They pointed out that the National Assembly makes appropriation for WAEC. And the lawmakers also pointed out that WAEC's convention dictates that they must submit to the legislation of any of its member countries. The back and forth argument begins between the WAEC officials and the National Assembly as to whether they are accountable to them or not, whether they are answerable to them or not, even though the National Assembly has backed theirs up with what the law has said. That's a provision of the law. Let's look at WAEC in Nigeria now, currently. We know how it was in the past. You definitely know how it was in your time. But you know, even when we talk about JAMB, we have heard stories recently of the mass failure of a lot of students in JAMB. And that, if they are failing JAMB that way, I don't think that they would have passed their WAEC examinations as much as they should have also, even though we did not, have a lot of reports on that. It was JAMB that was everywhere. Or look at, we had mass failure. What do you think is responsible for this?
Well, when it comes to education in Nigeria, judging from where I attended my own secondary education, I used to tell people that some of us were so lucky.
How?
We are lucky in the sense that we were taught by people that are gifted and have that consciousness, right? They take this profession as something that is their own. When it comes to teaching, it's a profession of conscience, right? And then the government too, as at that time, as a way of encouraging this sector. And we don't have any issue of private schools. All are government schools. And the government did their best to ensure that those government schools are well maintained academically and otherwise.
So you feel our schools, our public institutions were better maintained in the past than now?
Yes, they are better maintained. Because when you talk about, yes, a lot of things changed. At a point, the government started privatizing most of all those sectors, and education is not left out.
But people have said that when some of these institutions or sectors or businesses are being privatized, they're better managed than when they are put in the hands of government.
Because the government, at a point, lost that sense of responsibility. And individuals felt, even individuals within the government, they are the ones that also came up to start buying all these sectors from the government.
Even those sectors or the institutions that have not been bought by individuals, how much have the government really maintained it lately? So, have you visited any of these secondary schools recently?
That's a problem we have.
The public secondary,
yes,
or primary schools, you see them learning under trees.
That's a challenge we are now having.
Sometimes their classes are flooded. Sometimes these kids carry their chairs from their houses.
It's so unfortunate. That's what I tell you, back in the days, it wasn't that way.
But hold on, let's look at, since you're making comparison of the government schools in the past and government schools now, and I just made mention of the classrooms. And I know that this case or this issue has been there ever since, for a long time. I can't say ever since. Maybe after the building started becoming weak. We've also had, the other day I mentioned the experience I had during my youth service where I saw children carrying chairs from their houses that are really far to their classrooms. And I remember the guests I had on the show were telling me how it was, you know, it has always been that way back then, how even they had to, you know, carry these chairs from their class, from their houses. And so it looks like the state of Nigeria's education has been this way for a long time.
No, I will not agree with you. Okay. Because myself, I passed through secondary school here in Nigeria. That was, I think, as far as 1994.
What state now?
Yeah, talking about Lagos.
Lagos State?
Yes.
Okay.
I attended Nigerian Model High School.
Okay.
In
and
Lagos.
What was the state? What was the state of the...
No, well, that was, I tell you, perfectly well. Perfectly well. You know, then, you see, we have lab. I don't have to carry any chair from my house to come to school. I passed through secondary school. Even when I went to the north, that's Kakuri, government boys secondary school, Kakuri. That's where I wrote my WAEC in 2000. Still very okay. But after then, we started having issues of, okay, now private schools are now coming up because government couldn't maintain those public institutions.
So how did that affect the public institutions now?
Now, how it affect the public institution now? Teachers were being owed salary. And now, instead of teachers coming to teach, they will now come with their own private business in the school. So that's where you see some persons selling, you know, turn the school to a marketplace where they come and do buying and selling instead of teaching the students. So some individuals, that was when then I said no. Instead of we having it this way, it's not better the government privatize the school. So at a point, most of all these public institutions were not being owned by what? By private individuals. But at a point, I don't know the government that came up, whether Jonathan or I can't remember, or during the time of Obasanjo. The government came up and said, no, we are taking back our institution. But as then, a lot of damage had been caused. So they can't go back. Students cannot go back there. Now, what you see now are those that cannot afford to pay fees in those private schools. So that's why government are not saying now, okay, we are going to do a free tuition to allow people to bring in what their words to that school. What we see government, what they do now is to erect one gigantic structure all in the name of school. But inside the classroom, nothing to write home about. And teachers now, instead of coming to teach, you see them coming twice a week. And leaving the students to just be all by themselves.
So you think this is one of the reasons we're having the mass
failure
we're having in these examinations?
Because, yes, that's why we are having this mass failure. Because there's no proper monitoring.
Let's look at social media now and the role that this has played in the mass failure. Also looking, if we're looking at social media, it means we're looking at the society. There's this saying that school na scam. So a lot of these children have seen their uncles and the grown-ups whom they look up to, they don't have jobs. They went to school, but they came out without jobs. And yet, uncle, the one that did not, attend the university is making a lot of money, maybe legally or illegally. And this has in one way or the other told these children that you don't really need to go to school to be successful. And when people talk about success, they are looking at money now, the money that you are making. So these children, in a way, one way or the other, might have been, misinformed as to how these things are. Do you also see this as one of the reasons, or it's just based on the government and the state of these schools?
No, we need to, the mindset is very, very, very important. I will not agree with that saying that school is a scam. No, school is no scam. This is where you go, you'll be informed, you'll be enlightened, right? And then when you come out well, you're able to stand in public to defend yourself.
How do we tell the children these things? Because the ideology that these kids have now is completely different from what we had.
Yeah.
While we were growing up, we were told that if you go to school, that is it. You're going to be a successful man or woman. That is
the problem of the government. I mentioned to you before now that the greatest challenge we are facing as a country is not having an enabling environment. And what do I mean by enabling environment? We just mentioned the case of institution. Now, when you ask a child to go to school, a child that has a period of 6 to 9 years to be in the school, what provision have you put in place to ensure that once this child graduates from university, there will be opportunity for this child? So the government are not taking in that direction. That's why someone graduated in 2005, and up to this moment, this person is still looking for a job. And you know that on a yearly basis, we always have what? Graduates. So you as a government, what have you put in place? So if someone graduated in 2005 still looking for a job, and that person that graduated in 2006 will still come and meet that person in 2005. Now going that way. So how do you so you can see that before you know it, those that are in the institution already, looking at those that have graduated, yet to even get a job, just look at it that there's no need.
For so long, don't you think we should start taking actionable steps as individuals too?
Yes, it's also important that as an individual too, because I've been in seminars where I had the opportunity to talk to students. I told them that now you need to start identifying your potential. People like us know that we are gainfully employed. The only thing is that we identified our potential long before now. Bear in mind that the government of the day has nothing for us. Right? So we started on time to start developing ourselves and see how we can better our life and see how we can also contribute our own contact to the society.
Really start looking at that, because you hear a graduate saying he has been looking for a job for 8 years.
That's also an indication. How will you be looking for a job for 8 years? You're whiling away your time. Does that mean that there's nothing you can do as a person? I keep telling people that before now we'll be told that we are the future leaders of tomorrow. I was 7 years old when I started hearing that. And then when they ask you what we want to be, I said we want to be the president of this country. I wonder when I'll be the president of this country. And being the future leader of tomorrow, I don't know where that will come. But what I can do for myself is to keep improving myself on a daily basis.
Maybe we should really redefine this leadership. Maybe if we redefine leadership, we would have less youth complaining about being the leaders of tomorrow. Let's look at the tech space now. There's no how you will not say in the tech space, Mark Zuckerberg is not one of the leaders of today. So when we talk about being the leaders of tomorrow, as they told us when we were kids, we're only looking at being in the House of Reps. We're looking at being the president or being a governor. You can actually be a leader in your field. That's if you even take any step to do anything.
No, when you talk about field, now I was expecting to have mentioned a young Nigerian. Okay. That is a leader now.
You think we don't have any young?
No, I said just mention.
No. Do you actually think we don't have any young? No,
we do, but compared to the world at large, just the same way you mentioned the owner of Facebook, right?
Let's look at the music industry now. And Nigeria is not really in worldwide.
Now, that is one aspect that not everyone will want to venture into.
Of course, that's just an example.
Now, yes, fine, but you also know what is also happening in that industry. Even among the so-called youth. We heard the issue of the killing of this.
So you're saying Nigerians cannot lead in any other aspect except in governance?
No, we are not talking about governance here.
No, we're talking about leadership.
What we're talking about leadership. The first thing as a youth, or as a young Nigerian, is to first of all identify your potential. And how do you identify your potential? You also need to pass through the 4 walls of education. Right? So when you go there, you're able to enhance what gift that is inherent in you. Then from so doing, when you identify your potential, how do you put it to work? It takes a lot of mind. Not everyone, like I said, have that bold step, right? To actually identify their potential and put them to work.
Same way, not everyone will get into politics. So when we talk about leadership, we need to understand that the way you said the music industry is just one aspect. That's the same way politics is just one aspect. So not everybody will lead in politics. So I think it's high time we redefined what we meant
that's one way the government want to shift away the attention of the young ones then by telling them, you will be the leaders of tomorrow. Whereby they themselves, like I keep saying it, and I've said it here in the studio, that we need to what? Prepare ground. Prepare ground for these children to what? To actually ensure that what they have inherent in them, they can manifest it.
And also indirectly saying that the elderly ones
they are
who
not
have
the,
been there since
okay, they
should excuse us.
Yes, they should. They should. They should. We have seen situations where leaders will get to a certain age and feel that I cannot continue in this position. What I do, I resign honorably. We've just said of recent, what was the Biden just what? Allow, yes, you know the race. These are what we are talking about. If you know that you are no more capable to handle a particular position.
But these people do not feel like they're not capable.
Who are those?
The people who have been there.
And they were always, that's why most of them will also die.
Like
some of them died on the seat.
All right.
Yes.
At this point, we would take some time off. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, the conversation will definitely continue. We have other stories for you. Please don't go anywhere.